Ever since I was a kid, I've studied the habits of the rich, how they operate, and what separates them from the rest of the pack. There are an estimated 18.6 million millionaires in the US and just over 6% of households that identify as multi-millionaires. Are you one of them? Today we're going to discuss the topic of the millionaire mindset and what habits they've developed to give them financial freedom, and more importantly, how you too can gather these same attitudes and beliefs and hopefully become part of this group. Welcome to episode 8 of the Stacking Houses podcast, where we're getting paid not to be afraid. What is up, house stackers? If you're new to the podcast, we're helping working professionals create a solid plan B, a side hustle of passive streams of income through real estate investing. I'm your host, Damon Santamaria, and my goal for each show is to provide you with some practical and inspiring information so that you can create a solid financial plan for yourself. So to help you on your journey, I want to give you a copy of my book entitled How to Acquire Your First 10 Investment Properties, where I talk extensively about the mindset I needed to become financially independent. And you can pick this up simply by going to stackinghouses.com/book. And while you're there, you can check out our free training on where we're finding great deals in today's landscape. You can check out my blog and a bunch of other cool stuff as well. So with that, let's jump in. So growing up, I got bit by the money bug at an early age. And for those of you that are not familiar, the money bug is when you become obsessed with money, finances, business, and entrepreneurship. And I just can't help it. Everywhere I look, all I see and all I think about is money and business. And for many people hearing this, I know that it can be a huge turnoff. People say that, I'm materialistic and I'm money hungry, as if that's a bad thing. But for those of you that have been bitten by the money bug, you'll completely identify with everything, or hopefully everything, that I'm going to talk about here today. And for good or bad, our culture is obsessed with the class system. And for good reason. We live in what I believe is the best country for new ideas and opportunities and to build businesses. In my opinion, it would be wasteful to not take advantage of all the wonderful freedoms that we have here in the United States and use it to become financially independent. I think that many of us can take for granted all the freedoms that we have here. Can you imagine growing up in a place like North Korea where there's no opportunity for advancement? For me, it would be just simply wasteful to not take advantage of the, potential bestowed upon us by our inalienable rights. So I digress. But today we're going to talk about 3 main ideas that I've learned from studying the rich. Starting with number 1, the rich use credit to their advantage in building their businesses, but they never or rarely ever use it for excessive personal consumption. Number 2, they don't trade time for dollars, meaning they have their money work for them versus working for their money. And there's a bit of a distinction there that we'll review. And finally, number 3, they're willing to take calculated risks, provided that they become educated and have systems built to reduce the chances of failure. So, while you ponder those 3 ideas, I'm going to go into greater detail for each one. So for the first point that I made, that they use credit to their advantage. So despite what many people see on social media, real millionaires don't need to take selfies in front of expensive cars or lounging poolside. In fact, they're way too busy to be concerned about their public image to bother with this kind of nonsense. Just like me, I'm too busy to be worried about if you like my new glasses or not, right? Who cares? They're new glasses. I like them. The other thing is that they don't go into debt buying a new BMW just to impress their friends. Here in Texas, we have a saying, big hat, no cattle. Perhaps you're familiar with that term, but it's exactly what it means. Instead, business owners and entrepreneurs, they use credit to their advantage by expanding their operations, building systems to become more efficient, and they hire more employees as their business multiplies. As a real estate investor, I borrow money at 4%, but I earn 25 to 30% through the many tax advantages that real estate has to offer. Additionally, things like cash flow and depreciation and the appreciation of my properties. So the spread, or what we call the arbitrage between what I can borrow at, that 4%, and what my business makes is profit. Then and only then can I use this profit to buy items for personal consumption. If I want a new car, I first need to acquire a new investment that cash flows enough to pay for that new car. As a side note, I only buy several-year-old cars because I know that they're not an investment because they don't provide me with income and they only depreciate in value. Again, I will digress. But to close out this thought, the rich don't get rich by paying 24% interest on their credit cards. They don't get rich by buying luxury cars to impress their friends, nor do they live beyond their means, spending every last dollar of their paycheck at the bar on Saturday night. Okay? Now let's talk about the second quality of the rich, and that's the fact that they don't trade time for money. The one thing that all of us have in common is that we have only so many hours in the day. The rich have figured this out, and they figured out that they need to multiply themselves in order to focus in on running their business. And they do this by hiring employees, outsourcing areas of the business that's not their specialty, and developing systems to allow them to service more people with greater scale. In essence, their business makes money whether they're working on it, or they're on vacation, or they're sleeping. Their income is not dependent on them clocking in for work every day. Their income is a direct function of how many people they can help. Without getting into a political rant on Amazon and Jeff Bezos and how much, taxes he pays or doesn't pay, the reason he's become so wealthy is that he's built a company designed to solve the problem of getting products to your doorstep faster and more efficiently than anyone else. And he's helping millions of people, mainly consumers, who have very little time to go to a brick and mortar store and shop. He helps those same consumers get time back in their schedule. He has helped you and I get more time back in our lives. That's it. That's the big piece why Amazon is so successful. But the same concept as it relates to real estate investing, I have set up systems on the front end of acquiring my properties where I have individual teammates that help me build and maintain my business. These folks include real estate agents, home inspectors, bankers and lenders, insurance agent, a CPA, and property managers. And, I'm buying time by outsourcing these functions to professionals that know exactly what they're doing. I don't try to learn each function and do it myself because then I would have just created another job for myself. Instead, I outsource these areas that I don't care to handle. I focus in on expanding my business, and I keep the profit that's left over, allowing me to essentially make money while I sleep. Okay? So moving on, the third characteristic of the wealthy is that They are willing to take calculated risks provided that they become educated and have systems built to reduce the chances of failure. So this can be tricky, especially for newer investors. When I was first getting started, I didn't want to make any mistakes, even though I didn't have a coach or a course detailing the step-by-step process needed to acquire my first property. The purpose of the coach or a course is to fast-track your learning and avoid those very expensive mistakes that could take you out of the game before you even get started. What I've learned about successful business people is that once they have all the information needed to make a decision, they decide to move forward, and they rarely make changes after they've committed to a certain direction. Conversely, many newbies will make an impulse decision, regret it, and then change courses rather quickly and soon be forced to sell, only to lose thousands of dollars in the process. And I'm not saying that it's bad to make mistakes. This is how we all learn. But what I found to be best practice is to learn from other people's mistakes so that it minimizes your losses right out of the gate. From a mindset perspective, many employees see entrepreneurism as risky because in school we're taught to get good grades, get a good paying job, and put money away in your retirement account and be an indentured servant for the next 40 to 50 years. Entrepreneurs take the opposite side of the argument, saying, why would I solely be dependent on others to provide me with income, with my employer and the government to control my retirement money, time, where, when, and where to work, and essentially own my own calendar for my entire adult life? That seems to be more risky than to simply figure out how to go into the marketplace and earn money from starting a business. So, in short, these are some of the areas of how millionaires and savvy business people think about credit, time, and risk. There are, of course, many, many more daily habits that separate the wealthy from the rest of the pack, which I'm sure I'll go into in future podcast episodes. But I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. So if you did, please leave me a review on the platform that you're listening on so that we can reach other investors just like you. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I want to give you a free copy of my book entitled How to Acquire Your First 10 Investment Properties. And all you have to do is go to stackinghouses.com/book and you can download it for free. This book is a personal journey that literally, I explain me going from broke to creating a multi-million-dollar business in a few short years. So please be sure to check that out. And until next time, this is Damon with stackinghouses.com, and happy investing to you.